What is going on, guys? It is Wednesday, and that means it's paintball question time. This week on Paintball Question Time. 2-on-2 tips, how my playing style has changed over the years, and my opinions on remote lines. Paintball Question Time is where I answer your guys' questions. If you have a question, do use hashtag PBQT or just leave a comment below and I'll get to it and answer it. Nicholas Morrison asked, what do you think the best way to play a 2-on-2 is? Like position-wise and stuff, me and my friends are playing in the Winter Classic and want some pointers. So let's think about I think main objective at least early in the beginning of any match, whether it's 2v2s, 10-on-10s, 5-on-5s, whatever it is to try to limit the advancement of your opponents. So try to stop guys from moving up the field. We wanna try to limit their progression, right? You don't want guys to be in the snake 50 really fast. I think it's even more important in these 2v2 or 2-on-2 situations because it feels like if you lose one guy, you're kinda done because winning a 2-on-1 is definitely kinda difficult. I would play ultra conservative, at least in the beginning, and just look inside, right? Just try to stop movement from the other team. And when I say look inside, that means you guys go wide and then look inside on the field. Don't look outside because when you guys look inside or look at each other, cross over those lanes, you're gonna get the most field coverage. So it's gonna be harder for guys just to move down the field. And then I think after that, right, after you kinda contain some guys or maybe just figure out where everyone's at, maybe plan your next advancement and try to encroach onto their side. I also kind of feel that these 2-on-2s kind of are 1-on-1s at the same time, right? You're kind of just battling the guy in front of you and trying to contain or hold one guy in and just play against one guy. You're not maybe worrying so much about another guy because that's your other teammate's job. Most of the time I think in these 2-on-2s, the teams that are better at fundamental skills honestly end up winning. It's not the team that has better teamwork, it's just the guys that are better at snap shooting, better at laning, running and shooting, all those typical things. So I think you don't have much time to work on those things, but if you do, try to pick up more skills quickly. So I think in short, kind of crossing up, limiting the forward progression of the other team, trying to stay alive as long as possible and not get into that 2-in-1 scenario where it's gonna be very difficult to fight out of. I think that's how I would, approach a 2-on-2 and really stress to my other teammate, just live, dude. If we can get into a 2-on-1 scenario where we have a body up, we're golden. So let's not get down a body. Kirk Holguin asked, do you feel your playing style has changed over the years? Yeah, most definitely. So my style for certain has changed, and I think all paintball players' styles have changed, at least in this speedball style game. For me, I used to not think as much. Paintball wasn't as cerebral as it is now. I used to kind of just shoot and run around and kind of get crazy. I used to like to go to the 50 and then run through and try to shoot as many guys as absolutely possible. And then sometimes I would fill in and play that back role, but I definitely liked trying to be as aggressive as possible. That was kind of my game. I felt like I have the speed and athleticism to do that. So I was a wild man. I kind of just ran all over the place. And I think that was true as tournament speedball in general. 10 years ago, we were kind of just running all over the place and didn't really think as much. The game was much faster. And I think that comes back to people just not being as good, guns not shooting as straight, paint not being as good. But now guys are really good at running and shooting, snap shooting. Guns always work, paint shoots straighter, paint breaks easier, so I think it's much harder for us to just kind of go crazy and run around a bunch. So we play a lot slower, but also think a lot more. We kind of think about how we can trick people into doing stuff or fake people out and bait people into moving or bait people into shooting a certain way and then I can run around the back of them. So like I said before, it wasn't as cerebral when now we're definitely thinking a lot more, taking more into account when we're playing. It's become much more complicated. Something that I like. I think that's good. I think it's good that paintball's gotten more complicated. And it's not just about running and just shooting and going crazy. So it's slowed down a lot, yeah. So this kind of has something to do with a previous paintball question time where I answered how more equipment has changed since I started playing. Check that out right there. Damian Ceja asked, what's your opinion on remote coil lines for the Etha 2 or in general? Remote lines, so I like remote lines and don't like remote lines. I think for certain paintball guns, remote lines make sense, right? Say you have a Tipman TMC or like the US Army Project Salvo, or any of these guns with a stock, right? I think remote lines in that situation makes sense because you have that stock coming off the back and there's really no reason to have a tank, because typically you'd have the tank on there and use the tank like a stock. But since you have like, you know, a TMC or a Salvo, you kind of already have that stock built in. And then that's kind of what the tank is doing on most of these other paintball guns, like the Etha 2 or like the Axe or whatever it is. That tank is kind of acting like a stock. Let's grab something. Paintball gun. So this is, I don't know, I get these confused all the time. DM9, 10 something with a compressed air tank, right? So let's say I have this, right? I can kind of act like, you know, tank is a stock. So it's easy for me to like hold the gun up. I can hold it one-handed really easy. But as soon as like I take this off, right? Let's say I ditch this, no tank, and then just have the, I don't know, tankless gun. I kind of end up holding this thing in like midair, and like that's when it gets difficult, right? That's when guns are gonna get heavy. That's when it makes it harder to like run and shoot at stuff or like snap shoot when I'm just like holding the gun in midair. So I definitely like, for like these typical normal paintball guns, like that die gun, having the tank on there because the tank acts like a stock. Once you get rid of that, you're just like holding the thing in midair and it's just friggin' awkward. I think that's appealing to some people, thinking like, hey, I'm gonna add a remote, let's get this tank off the gun, make it lighter weight. But it really doesn't. I mean, I guess it does. It makes it lighter, but it definitely makes it feel heavier because you're just holding the thing in midair when you could push back on the gun and have that tank in your shoulder, and it kind of takes the weight off your hands because you're kind of like propping it up on your shoulder. But it really ultimately comes down to preference because the gun's gonna shoot the same, but just don't do it. Don't use a remote on the Etha 2. Guys, check out more paintball question times right there, or subscribe to this Paintball Ruin My Life channel, Adventure Time Hour Fun, by hitting that circle right there.